Hi class, in today's lesson we are going to focus on translating algebraic expressions. We have four operations that we use when we are writing expressions, and those would obviously be addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. As we are writing these expressions, we want to look for some keywords. And you may already know some of these words. If I was in the classroom, I would kind of have us create these lists as a class. But obviously today we are not, so I'm going to go through and give you some samples of words that we need to look for that indicate to us whether we should add, subtract, multiply, or divide. So for our addition list, one of the obvious ones would be add. We're not going to include that in our list because I think that is kind of given away in the word. But the additional words we could look for are sum, increased by, more than, total, and plus. So if we see these words in a phrase given to us and we're asked to write an expression, somewhere in our expression we are going to need to use an addition sign. Now, subtraction is the opposite of addition. So think a lot of the opposite words that are written here in our addition list. The opposite of the word sum for subtraction, that word is difference. The answer to a subtraction problem is known as the difference. So that would be something we could look for. Instead of increased by, subtraction would be the opposite, which in this case would mean decreased by. Instead of more than, for subtraction we would say less than. And this one we're going to put a star next to, and I will explain that reasoning in a little bit. Instead of plus, we could have minus. And then the other word or phrase we want to look for, subtracted from. And this phrase we will also put a star next to, and as I said, I will explain those little asterisks in a few minutes. Okay, for multiplication, we have the phrase times. If we're going to multiply something, we are going to times two numbers together. That would indicate multiplication. The answer to a multiplication problem is known as the product. And then the word twice would indicate that I should multiply something 2 times, as well as the words double or triple could indicate to us that we should multiply 2 or 3 by certain numbers. The last one is the phrase of. You have to be careful about how that word is used because sometimes it is used within a statement and it doesn't indicate multiplication. But if we are trying to find half of a number, that of indicates to us that we should be multiplying by a half. Now for division, instead of times, we could possibly be looking for the phrase divided by. Obviously that would be a pretty obvious indication that we should use division in our expression. The answer to a division problem is known as the quotient. So the phrase quotient would tell us we should divide. Now instead of doubling or tripling something, in division we're splitting things apart. So we may be cutting something in half. That would mean we're dividing by 2. Or in thirds would mean we're dividing by 3. And then the last word for division is to separate. If we want to separate something between a group of people, that would indicate to us that we are going to divide as well. Now, we have some special phrases here, and you'll notice that underneath our chart, we have some things known as parenthesis words and turnaround words. Our parenthesis words combine basically two operations. And the first thing is times. if we see the phrase times the sum of, this indicates to us that there is going to be parentheses after a number where we put a number on the outside and we put an expression on the inside with an addition sign because of the phrase sum. We could have another thing very similar, times the difference of or between. If we see this phrase, it indicates there's going to be a number, then a set of parentheses with a subtraction expression inside. You'll see these as we go through our examples, and I think it will make a little bit more sense as we go. Now, the other phrase, if you remember in the subtraction box, we talked about writing or starring two of the examples here, less than and subtracted from. So, those are the two words that we're going to place in this turnaround word box. When we see the phrase less than or subtracted from, we actually have to write the expression in the opposite order than what it is written. For example, if I say 6 less than a number, some of us might think that the 6 should come first because that was given first in the expression. However, when less than is the phrase that is used, we will actually turn it around and the variable would come first and the 6 would come last. And you'll see this in some of our examples as we work through some of the problems in this assignment. So as we look at the examples here at the bottom of the page, there's only 4 problems here on the front side. You want to read the statement, and then my suggestion is to kind of underline possibly or highlight, whatever you want to do, the key word or phrase that you see. So in number 1, the product of a number and 3. The key word product, if you look at our chart, should indicate here to you that we are going to multiply. When you see the phrase a number is our unknown. So our unknowns have to be represented with a variable. In most of these cases, I'm going to use the letter X unless I'm told I have to use a different variable. So in this case, the product of a number and 3 means that I'm going to write 3x, or you could put it as 3 times x if you wanted to put the dot in between. Or in multiplication, the order doesn't matter, so you could also write x times 3. For number 2, the difference. Difference should indicate to us that we are going to be subtracting. So in this case, we would have x, because that's a number, minus 10. For number 3, the quotient. Quotient indicates to us that we are using division. Now, I would prefer that you start to write division as a fraction. So in this case, I'm going to use a slash x for a number divided by, for the word quotient, and then the number -5. Now, in number 4, it says 4 subtracted from a number. Subtracted from hopefully kind of lights up at you and indicates that you have a turnaround word. And what this means is, instead of writing the number 4 first in our expression, we're going to write our variable first. We have a number -4 because we want to take away 4 from the number that we do not know. So be very careful on that one that you write the proper order. Okay, go ahead and flip the page and we have a few more examples here on the back. So, number 5, the sum of twice a number and 7. Well, in this case, we actually have 2 keywords. We know that the word sum indicates to us that we have to add. However, we have the phrase twice a number, which means that we're going to be multiplying a number by 2. So in this case, we'll start our expression with 2x plus 7. For number 7, we have 4 less than a number squared. In this case, we have the phrase less than and squared. Both of these indicate some things to us. So first of all, if we are squaring a number, that is our exponent. Hopefully we remember that that is x to the second power. And the phrase less than is a turnaround word indicating subtraction. So in this case, we will have x squared minus 4. In number 9, we have the sum of twice a number and 10 is 36. At this point, there are some things indicated to us here. We have the key phrase sum, we have the phrase twice, and we have this keyword is. Okay, so let's focus on our expression first. In this case, the sum of twice a number. Twice a number means that we should write the phrase 2x plus 10. The keyword is starts indicating to us that we need to write an equation. So in this case, we will have equals 36. So towards the bottom of the assignment here, we're going to start to add in writing equations. In number 11, we have 4 times a number divided by 8 is 3. So in this case, you see the phrase times and divided by, as well as the word is. What this means is we're going to take 4x for 4 times a number divided by 8 is where we need our equal sign, and then a positive 3. For number 13, 1/2 of a number. Well, that key phrase of tells us that we are going to have to multiply. So that's the first half of our equation here, half of a number. Then we see the phrase is. This indicates to us our equal sign should come next. And then be careful as you're reading the next part. 8 less than the number itself. Well, less than indicates to us that we have to use subtraction. However, this is again our turnaround word. So instead of the 8 coming first, the 8 will come at the end of our problem, and we will say x minus 8. For number 15, we have the phrase 15 decreased by. Decreased by should indicate to us that we are subtracting. And then we see the phrase the quotient of a number and 3 is 20. So a lot of key words here. Break it down by each piece so it's not so confusing. So we're going to start with the number 15. That's what we see first. Decreased by indicates subtraction. The quotient of a number and 3. That means we are going to be dividing x by 3 is 20. So we'll fill in equals 20 here. Okay, one other one I want to jump to before I have you finish the rest of this assignment. If you look at number 10, it says 3 times the difference of. Times the difference of is a phrase that we wrote in our parenthesis word category. So what we need to write here is 3, and then we're going to start a parenthesis. Difference indicates that we should be subtracting, and in this case it will be x minus 7. We'll close our parentheses, and then is indicates an equal sign, equals 18. Now I'm going to stop here, and I would like for you to finish number 6, 8, 12, 14, and 16 before you put this paper away.